my phone on silent. Hello and welcome to the Lord's Last Play. I'm your host Megan Ben, and today we are talking about women in sport. And in our space today we have the captain of the women's soccer team, Chloe Hercia, and the captain of the women's rugby team and my captain, Maya Austin. How are you guys today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well.
Good. Glad to hear. I'm so excited to have you guys for this. When I thought about doing a women in sport episode, like, you guys were the first ones who popped into my head, so that's really important to me. As I said before, you guys are all captains of your respective teams. How many years have you been with the Lords?
This is my third year now, so yeah.
Yeah, this is also my third year.
Both
Yeah.
3 years. And are you guys local?
Yes, I'm from Oshawa.
You're from Oshawa?
Yeah, I'm originally from Ajax, but I live in Brooklyn now, so.
Good. See, local homegrown talent. I love to see it. So today is Women in Sport Day, and obviously as high performance women's athletes, that's very important to us to be able to have the opportunities to compete at this level, and also being able to have that opportunity and create that pathway for the athletes who come behind us. What does representation mean to you?
That's a really tough question. I feel like growing up, I obviously played every single sport in high school, elementary school, growing up. But I feel like I didn't watch a lot of sports. And I think a lot of that is because of what we see on the television. I was just thinking earlier this year, they had, the Northern Super League for the women's soccer, a rise. Yeah. And I was just thinking when I was little, I was like, I would have loved to watch that. Because personally, I don't watch a lot of men's soccer. I don't really relate to it as much. I don't know if you guys feel that with your sport as well. It's a completely different sport.
That's very understandable. Yeah.
So I feel like it would have made a really big impact for me growing up if I had the same sort of things to watch as people will now growing up.
Yeah.
And you, Maya?
Well, just jumping off of what Chloe said, I feel like rugby's really taken off, representation-wise, and the coverage that it's getting on the internet. It's finally, women's rugby in particular, is finally getting the recognition that it deserves, which has been really great to see.
Yeah, I've noticed on the HSBC 7 series that the Perth stop and now the Vancouver stop, the women's final, they're going to have the last play, which is really big. Yes. I feel like, at least in the sevens sense, I feel like the women's sport is bigger than the men's sport because I don't know, I get a lot more excitement, and maybe it's the channels that I follow because I follow a lot of women's sports pages, but I hear so much talk about the women's series over the men's series, and I'm like, yes, get it, girl, this is what we want. So do you think there's enough female representation across the board in coaching positions? So we talked a lot about looking up to other female athletes. What about female leadership in sports, coaches?
At Durham? Or
at Durham, in the professional leagues, in the national levels?
Mm-hmm. I think that we're seeing it more now. Our assistant coach here is female, Allie. But I was just thinking of even the men's. Do you know that men's hockey team, the NHL team?
Oh,
there's a woman assisting
the Seattle Kraken.
Yes.
Oh, I know. I follow her, but I can't remember her name.
I know. I don't know her name. Yeah.
There we go.
But even seeing women coach men now, I'm like, oh, it's kind of nice.
Yeah. So when did you have your first female coach?
I've never had a female coach. Well, I guess in high school, obviously, for when I played volleyball, soccer. I even played rugby actually growing up. But I had female coaches for the women's sports, but outside of school, this is probably our assistant coach Allie is the first female coach that I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
My first female coach was in high school, grade 9, Kelly Sadowski. Had her all throughout high school, and then of course McKee's been a pivotal point in all of our rugby careers, and he's great. But I think definitely having Sam Gates as our assistant coach. She was a player on the team before I even came here and was a role model for me to follow, especially playing the same position and everything like that. So having her on our team as an assistant coach has been great, just to have that balance, but also she can relate to all of us, and she's played on the team before, so she kind of, I think it's great to have Sam on the team.
Yeah, it's nice because it feels so new. Maybe it's not new because you hear a lot of people who have played sports in their college career, but it's nice, like you said, having Sam, because she's so close but far enough to be a leader but close enough to understand, and I think that's really important. And thinking back, my first rugby coach was a female, Dawn Manarowski.
Yes, same.
Yes, Miss M. Yeah, so she was my first coach, and then I haven't had a female head coach since then.
Yeah. I feel like it hits different.
It does.
Like the communication, we're on the same level. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit different than communicating with a man in that position. Not in a bad way.
Not in a
bad
way.
They're both different. It's
yes.
just
yes. They just have the female experience perspective.
Yes.
So I enjoy that. And then sometimes I also like when people are hard on me. So like you get a taste of both, which I think is really nice. Do you think there's a difference in the way that the women's game is officiated over the men's game?
Oh, I've never thought of that, really.
Yeah. I can't say I've ever thought of that. I feel like rugby's, I don't think so, no. No, I don't think so.
I think soccer, like, for my sport at least, the men's game and women's game is so different that, like, when you're watching men's soccer, like, a big issue that people have is, like, the falling, the free kicks, like, all that stuff, right? But, like, in the women's sport, like, it's almost tougher in a way. Yeah. Like, you know, like people get hit, they just like you keep going, like a lot of calls get missed, like it's a very different game, at least for soccer. But I've never really paid attention to the reffing as much as, but that's a good question.
Yeah, rugby, I feel like I don't know. Okay, so I'm ignorant on soccer, but I feel like we all should play by the same rules. Yes. Rugby, we definitely do. The only difference I really noticed between like the men's game and the women's game is like the rucking is different.
Oh, I thought I knew what you were going to say.
Oh, no, say it.
No, it's okay. I thought I knew.
Now I'm curious to say what you... No, I feel like rucking's different. Like, sometimes it's not, like, we should go one behind the other. Like, men are just, like, one straight line, and women are kind of, like, spread out across the body. It really depends on the placement, but that's, like, the only thing I can think. And one thing that really bothers me, and it has nothing to do with women in sport, but like men will play rugby for one season and they will get amazing quads and their leg definition is just so amazing. And like I've been playing rugby,
we have different bodies,
right? And I've been playing for 14 years and I still have zero quad definition. And I'm just like, just started last year. So what can be done differently by administrators and governors to increase support for women in sports?
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question.
It's loaded. Yes. Let's talk about it. Like, I feel like we always are pointing out things that could be better. And it's not necessarily to critique administration, but it's to improve the sport that we love.
Are you talking on, like, the college level?
College level, national. Well, I don't have experience on the national level. So, yes, let's stick at the college level.
Okay. Like, supports put in place, maybe?
Yeah. Like what? What would help? What would make you feel like a more supported athlete? Specifically, women athlete.
This would take, like, some thinking.
Okay.
This will take... Can we come
back? We can come back.
Can we come back to
I'll
this?
shelf that one and we'll come back to it.
Perfect.
You'll like this one, Maya. Do you have any professional women's players or mentors that you look up to and why?
Professional?
Yes.
Professional, I would say Sarah Caljuvi.
Mm-hmm.
She is from Ajax as well. She went to Pickering High School alumni. Kelly Sadowski also coached her. And she's since gone on to play at the national level on the 7s team and the 15s team. And then 2 summers ago now, she came back and actually played for the summer with us at Vikings, which was incredible and honestly like a one-in-a-lifetime experience for athletes like us to play alongside an athlete like her was just, it was insane. Like every training session, every game, like it's just, I think that was honestly a one-in-a-lifetime experience. I trained with her throughout the whole summer. Like we would go and do conditioning together at the field, drills, like everything like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, she like elevated practice. Like I would look getting out of my car and I'm like, oh, she's on the sidelines. Okay, definitely. I had to like turn it on. I'd be like, okay, take a minute, deep breath. Okay, walk out there.
Was it like intense?
It was intense.
Oh yeah.
But it was like a good kind of intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think it was also great because at Vikings we have so many junior teams as well, and we have so many young female rugby players at the Oshawa Vikings club. So for all of them to see a player like her at our club, and then they were getting inspired by her and being like, oh wow, like, you know, she's from here too, like it is possible for all of us, like if we work hard enough, if we train hard enough, if we use all of our resources and we really want to, we can get to that level too, and you know, we can we can really do something with this sport. So I think it was really inspiring for all of them too. I know she came and spoke at like the women in rugby night that we had, and all the little ones were just like absolutely mesmerized by her. I was so like,
I was
all
too.
of us older women were too. Like it was awesome. That was definitely
awesome.
a summer to remember. So
yeah, and like on top of that, now I think the landscape of sport is so different. So I'm old. I graduated high school in 2015, and at that time, like commitments to post-secondary athletics wasn't a big thing. And now I get messages all the time because I also coach U16 and U18, so some of them are like in their first year or second year of post-secondary now, but I love when they send me, Megan, I committed to here, I committed to MAC, I committed to Guelph, I committed, and so I set all their pictures. Okay, this is kind of geeky, but I actually have a binder in my room where like their Instagram posts, like I cut it up and I stick it there. I was like,
That's
and
so
I sign
cute.
it. And
well,
it's cute.
I love that because you're a part of their journey. So like you are also a part of the reason that they committed to those schools.
Yeah,
they will always remember you as.
And you can see, like, you can look back and see the impact that you made.
Exactly.
Oh, guys, you're making me cry.
That's not geeky. That's not.
So, Chloe, before I cry, do you have any professional women's mentors that you look up to?
My growing up with sports was like, like I said, I didn't watch a lot. Like, obviously, one person that stands out, like, who retired recently is Christine St. Clair. Obviously, like, every soccer, like, person growing up would obviously look up to her. But I do find, like, I'm very motivated by, like, immediately the people around me. Like, I don't find that, like, I see somebody, like, when I was growing up, like, seeing soccer on the TV, like, seemed a bit, like, out of reach. Because soccer is such a big sport and it's so competitive that, like, you watch, you're like, oh my gosh, like, how could somebody ever get there? So I think that, like, seeing people that, like, I've personally played against get drafted for, like, all these teams, like the Toronto teams and all that, like, it's really cool to see now. But yeah, like, nothing huge growing up, but obviously Christine St. Clair was, like, a huge impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you touched on the people that, like, you personally know and, like, have played against or trained with.
And just seeing them, like, go to, like, that level, I'm like, wow, like, it's really cool to see.
Yeah.
It is very cool to see. Sorry, there's a fire truck outside. No, I think for me, like you said, like, rugby only now has a lot of exposure. Like, there wasn't, even now I still have hard times, like, trying to find rugby games and getting them on the TV.
Yeah.
So fix that, Rugby Canada.
Yes.
But I definitely say, like, the people around me. So, like, the person who introduced me to rugby, my first ever rugby coach, Dawn Manarowski at O'Neill.
She is, like, a motivator.
She is a motivator.
At that high school, like, I never considered rugby ever. My parents were like, you're going to get injured or whatever. Grade 9 came, and she's like, you're playing. I'm like, all right, sure. I guess I'm playing.
You do not have a choice.
And I've never met a tougher woman.
No, she
personally.
Like, I wish you one day, Maya, I'll make sure you meet her. But like, she's like really down to earth and really sweet. But I remember her telling me, like, I want you to come play rugby. I was like, I don't.
There's
think so.
No way.
Like, my mom is not signing that permission form. And then I remember my first tryout. It was in the rain. I hated it. There was like definitely 50 plus girls there, and I was like, I'm not going back. And the next day she's just like, so are you coming tonight? And I was like, no. And she's like, yes you are. And I guess I did, because I never stopped playing rugby since then. So that was I'm aging myself again, that was 2011, so it was a long time ago. But like, even now, I never thought I would have a relationship with a coach or a teacher that like I would still draw back to. And I was texting her the other week. I still keep her updated on my life. She comes and watches like
I see her at the field.
Yeah, our games here, and it's so nice. And I'm just like, wow, this person like really impacted my life and set me on a path for sport that I never thought I'd be able to have.
That's
and so
awesome. Those
people are like so important to have in your life. And I think it's nice to hear that we've all been impacted by someone like that who really was like our cheerleader. We kind of touched on this. So the interest in professional women's sports is higher than ever. We now have the PWHL, the Toronto Tempo in the WNBA debuting next year, as well as the Northern Super League. What are your thoughts on these new opportunities for women to compete?
I love it. I personally love it. I've always loved watching sports, but like just seeing women's sports like within this past year alone take off has been awesome. Like I do not watch, like I don't know anything about basketball. I watch women's basketball though.
I will not watch,
to be honest. I will not watch like an NBA game. I watch the WNBA.
Yeah.
I watch college women's basketball. Like,
yes.
I love it. I watch, like, women's hockey. Like, I love it. Like, I love it. And Meg and I are talking about getting, like, seasons tickets for when Toronto gets their team.
Yes.
Like,
well, I just think that, like, if the opportunity's there, like, we need to go out and support. Like, it hasn't been there. Like, like little me is like screaming because, like, it's just nice to see, like, all of these sports are the same, played by different people. They all have different styles. So I think that, like, watching men's sports, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Can't relate to it.
Can't relate.
I can't relate to it because, like, our game is completely different. Yeah. So, like, even watching, like, women's basketball, it's played differently. Yeah. Like, we all have, like, different physical abilities, but it doesn't mean it's worse or better. So just being able to watch it, like, on the screen now is, like, I actually want to, like, turn it on.
Right. Yeah. I signed up for the Toronto Tempo season's ticket release. I don't think I'll be able to afford it, but I was just like, this is my contribution to the Toronto Tempo being here. But I can't wait. Like, I went to, what team was it? It was the Minnesota Lynx versus, it was not Chicago. Was it Chicago? Back when they had the WNBA game in Toronto. So that was 2023. May 2023, I went. It was like the atmosphere was so crazy. I loved it. And now being the manager of women's basketball here at Durham, it's such a, like, rugby is nice. Rugby is its own culture. It's its own country. It's so cool. Basketball, so different. I'm like, what do you mean this is what we do? Like, I was like, okay. So it's nice seeing, like, what a field sport is versus what a court sport is. And I just love that, like, there's both cultures to it. And I'm just like, wow, like, could I be a baller now? Absolutely not. I can't shoot save my life. But you betcha I'm going to be rocking the Toronto Tempo stuff. Actually, a friend of mine is now I want to make sure I get this right. Maddie is the high performance and mental toughness. That's not the word. Mental. I'm sorry, Maddie.
Something for.
She's like
something for, like, mental health.
Yes, mental performance.
Yeah, mental performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she was hired for the NSL. The AF. Oh, Megan, you're butchering this. The new Toronto soccer team of the NSL.
Cool.
So she's their strength and conditioning and then mental performance. That's what it is. Mental performance.
That's so
coach.
cool. Oh, going back to your question, that's what I would like.
That's what you would like?
That's what I would like.
Coach?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that, like, obviously, we don't play professional sports. We're college athletes. Yeah. But, like, it does a lot on your brain. Like, it does a lot on your brain. And, like, I think, like, game nerves is a real thing. I would say so this is my first year as captain. Yeah. My transition for that was probably pretty, like, mentally tough for me this year. It's a different role. Like, it feels different than years before. Yeah. So I think having, like, the mental support for that would probably be nice. And it's obviously goes for men and women too, not just women, but I think that, like, your brain has, like, such an impact on how you can physically play, and having that support would make a big difference.
Yeah, especially getting over performance slumps. Like, sometimes it was like a couple of nights ago we were doing a drill and I just kept getting it wrong. I was like, what's wrong with my brain? Like, he stood in front of me and I watched his lips and he's like, this is what we're doing. And I was like, the first half I got it. Second, I was like, my body wasn't moving. And they're like, Meg, you have to run that way. And I was like,
okay.
Like, 3 times in a row, and they're just like, Meg's just gonna stand there, so, like, drill her. But I was like, what is going on? And I think there's a lot of pressure on ourselves to, like, perform well in school, perform well in our respective sport, and then you have to throw in, like, everything else that comes with being a human, relationships, making sure you're taking care of yourself, making sure you're eating. And so definitely being able to, like, offload some of that to someone who can help you come up with good coping mechanisms, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, huge.
And also piggybacking off of what Chloe said too, like, when it comes to the like, mental health supports, and then, like, how you mentioned, like, stepping into your role as captain too. Yeah, I would say, like, I noticed that as well.
It just feels different.
It's different, and obviously it's great at times and it's awesome, but also you have to make, like, certain decisions that, like, at the end of the day you have a role that you need to uphold. And that can be
it's like an really added pressure. Hard. It really is
really
like
hard, and, like, it can be really hard. But then also at the same time, with having that position, I find, like, a lot more people on the team have that trust to come to you when they're dealing with their own things
when
too.
You're dealing with your own.
Exactly. So and, like, not to say that that's a bad thing also, but it kind of opened my eyes up to, like, what also everyone else is going through too. And it's like, okay, if I didn't have this role and people didn't feel that they could come to me with all these things, like, I wouldn't know that half the people on my team were going through the things that they were going through, right? And obviously that doesn't even have anything to do with like being a captain, but I think having that role especially as well, because like, you know, if you're gonna miss a practice, if you're gonna be late or whatever, you gotta explain yourself, right? And so, like, why'd you miss practice? And it's actually like, oh, not just because, you know, of a silly reason, right? Like, so I think I think having those mental supports would be,
and I know there was an added position this year in our
year,
Jamie.
Performance and wellness, was it?
Our wellness coach.
Yeah, so I guess they did add that. I don't know. I guess I just never really thought of it, but
it's hard. I think the hardest step is taking the first step.
I was just going to say that. Like, because I think we all know it's there now, but it's like it's kind of a foreign thing for everyone. It's like, okay, great, I might need that, but like, how do I go about getting that? Or like, how am I going to feel comfortable, you know,
accessing that?
Yeah.
So formal.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't so formal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I'm not a captain, respectfully, thank God.
Yeah, but you're a leader.
Yes.
You are.
You're like an overall leader at this school.
Bless your hearts, though, for being a captain, because that's like, okay, being a leader's pressure, but you guys have my heart. But no, like, being a leader is hard when you're talking about like managing expectations. I also think like it's hard with your friends. So like, you think of your team as your family and your friends, and when you have to make a decision that is tough and that kind of tests the boundaries of your friendship, it must suck.
Yeah.
So like, I love you as a friend, but right now I have to step into the shoes of being a captain, and you might not be happy with the decision I'm making, but as a captain, I feel like this is the best decision I can make.
And I did find it hard transitioning from like, we're all equals obviously, but like when I have to like now influence people to like work out more, do stuff like that, it's like you have to draw a line. Like, yes, we're like really close friends, but also like I have to push you to get to this point as well. And that's a really hard transition,
because at the end of the day you are going to hold them to a certain standard, and sometimes people can't take that the way that they should be able to as a collegiate athlete. And I think it's definitely challenging at times, but at the end of the day I think having your friends that know and understand that, and that will have your back no matter what,
that helps.
Don't take things personally. I know I've been blessed with a couple myself, Megan. So I think having those solid people in your corner that you know that you can always rely on definitely makes that easier.
For sure.
So how do you guys unwind and have fun as high performance athletes?
Ooh.
See, my idea of fun is very different from, like, I think any other person my age idea is.
I was going to say fun. Me too. Like, I'm not going to sound very fun right now.
Yeah, like, my idea, like, I go to bed at, like, 9:30 every night.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a Friday, a Saturday. Like, I'm done work. I go home, get my stuff done, my workout done, everything like that. I am so excited to go to bed and have my little TikTok time before bed and go to bed early. Like, there's nothing I hate more than being up late. So I don't know if I'm the one to ask.
No, so we were rooming buddies this year on all of our away games, and we were in bed, like we were face mask, skincare, showered,
absolutely.
and like in our covers, and like you could hear everybody in the hallway. And
like,
I was like,
no,
we're asleep. We're going
like respect. Like, I love to like do the team bonding and all that, but half the time I'm like, you know what? I am so busy outside of soccer and everything, like alone, that I'm like, you know what? Any free time I get, I am resting.
It's for myself.
I am resting for the next day.
It's for me.
Yes, it's what you need. Okay. What piece of advice would you give to female identifying high school athletes who want to pursue high performance post-secondary sport?
I would just say, like, work hard, but also like do your research and do your networking. I feel like for rugby especially, like, I didn't even consider college until like second semester of grade 12. Like, I was so overwhelmed with the idea and the thought of, like, oh, university, like, which team do I want to be a part of? And it was stressing me out so much because I'm like, I don't see myself being a part of any of these teams. But in rugby, like, it's kind of, like, you know, all people talk about is the OUA, and they're great. They are phenomenal athletes. Like, my sister played in the OUA for 4 years before that, so, of course, I'd go watch every single game. I love rugby. Not that much. Okay? Like, I love it, not that much. Like, like, I don't even get into that, but, like, So, like, do your research, find out what's for you, because at the end of the day, you want to have fun too. And I feel like college is such a healthy balance of everything, and I feel like it's not, like, in rugby talked about enough as an opportunity, especially for, like, elite pathways, right? Because, like, you know, people don't come out to watch OCAA tournaments, but there's, like, national coaches watching almost every OUA game, right? So I think definitely this year too, like, I know McKee was telling us that, like, certain Canada Sevens coaches were watching the OCAA tournaments, which is amazing, right? Yes. Like, for those of the players in the OCAA that want to pursue that pathway, I think that was great. So I think we're slowly but surely getting there, but I think, yeah, do, like, speak to people and find out what's for you, and don't just, like, go along with what everyone else's idea of successful is, because
it's different.
Yeah, I didn't even know that this was an option, and I couldn't be happier with the choice that I made. So,
well, you hear so much growing up, like in high school, like everyone going D1, trying to go to the States and stuff like that, and I was just like, I want to stay home. Like, I wanted to save money and go to school. Yeah. I never really considered. I wasn't a recruit for the soccer team. I tried out, like, at the open tryouts, and I never really considered it before. And then I was like, I don't want to, like, sports to be done once I'm done high school. So I feel like a lot of people probably feel like that. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like as long as you like I would always say pick a school path first. Yes. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say go and choose it for sport, because obviously, like, we're leaving this with an education. We're not leaving this with, like, a professional career in our sport. Exactly. This just adds to my experience personally, and I didn't want to, like, let go of my sports yet. So yeah, I feel like what you said, like, researching helps a lot. Contacting coaches, like, at any point, like, all emails are on websites, like, whatever school you want to go to if you don't want to travel far. But the OCAA, it's a great loop. Like, it's competitive. Like, it's not.
Don't knock it till you try it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to go to crazy. Like, you don't have to fly anywhere to play good sports. Like, we live in Ontario. Like, there's a lot of good athletes here. Yeah.
Well, the OCAA is the largest conference in Canada, 26 member schools. So there's that. And not all of them have rugby. There's 8 schools that have women's rugby. We added a 9th with Georgian College coming in.
Nice.
There'll be exhibition this fall, but starting 2026, they're full-time. But, like, almost every OCAA school has women's soccer, which is crazy. So that's, like, one of our biggest ones. But, yeah, I remember. So not that I went the opposite way, but I started in university. I did my degree, and then I came to college. And honestly, I love my degree. I don't like the probably $50,000 of debt that accompanied it, but I think I definitely had a way better collegiate experience here at Durham than I did. I won't say my university name, than I did when I went to university. And then my rugby experience here was, like, leaps and bounds better than at my previous institution. But, like, so I went with the OCAA to the Ontario Colleges Fair, and that's a conversation I had to have with student athletes who, like, wanted to come, and they were just like, okay, where offers basketball? And I was like, whoa. I was like, what are you interested in? Because like, you know, you're going to be in class more than you're training, and, like, make sure you know that like once sports is done, like you have the credential that you sought to walk away with. And but it was really nice to be able to talk to like, specifically because this is the Women in Sports podcast, but being able to talk to the next generation of, like, women athletes. And they were asking me so many questions, and like, well, what's your experience like? And I'm just like, honestly, here at Durham, and it's kind of hard because I'm like, I'm representing all the colleges, but I was like, speaking of my experience at Durham, I'm like, here at Durham, I have the support I need. I know that there's tons of resources available to me. I know if I were to walk into kind of, like, any staff member's office, if I had a problem, it's open door. And like, Scott Dennis, I bug him probably 2 or 3 times
His door is too open.
His door is too open. It's too open. And I'm just available. Like, Scott, I have an idea, which is really, really awesome. But I hope that anybody who gets the opportunity to play post-secondary sport, I hope that they get
this experience that we have. I agree. I don't know what other colleges are like, but I just know, like, that, like, this is a great place,
right?
Like, our community. I was telling my dad a story the other day about something I was filming at, like, one of the volleyball games, and he was just like, wow, like, the culture there just seems so great. I'm like, it really is. Like, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else at this point.
Right? 4 years and counting now for me. I was supposed to be gone after 2 years, and I just keep getting roped back in because I'm like, I don't want to leave.
No.
Help me stay. 2 more questions. What is your favorite thing about being a woman athlete?
I don't know.
Okay, I have an answer.
Okay.
This might be slightly TMI, but like going through your menstrual cycle and still being like a hard-hitting athlete is like one of my favorite things. Like I could be in so much pain from being on my period, but like I'm stepping onto the field and guess what?
You wouldn't even know.
Right? I'm still drilling the person across from me. I'm still poaching that ball. I'm still doing all of this while I feel like the lower half of my body is about to explode. And so that's one of my favorite things is like I don't like to celebrate powering through pain, but like that I'm just like
absolutely.
Knowing that you can't strong
it is
that,
different.
Right?
I like feeling I feel like it's almost like proving yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I like when people are like, oh, like saying like not that like people say this, but like even if you get like a small compliment, like how like fast you run, or like people like recognizing your accomplishments, stuff like that. It's just like we're right there. Like, you know, like we're not like lower than anybody. So like I like showing like how tough we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody watches women's sports.
Yeah.
Everyone. Get
literally.
me a t-shirt. Please. Get me one of those shirts.
That's a hard question.
It is a hard question, and I think I'm just going to have to agree with Chloe on that.
Okay.
So.
And lastly, if you could look back on your athletic career 20 years from now, what would you want to remember? Is that loaded too? I'm so
These are loaded. Yeah, same. I just turned 20.
All I heard was 20 years ago, and I was like...
So if you could look back on right now, 20 years from now.
Okay.
So, you're an adult, you're married, you have a family, you're in your 50s.
Looking back.
You want, looking back on right now, what is the number one thing you would want to remember about your time here?
Remember about my time here? Like, what was my favorite part? Then,
sure. Okay. What's your favorite part? Yes, that does. That was a long-winded question to say, what's your favorite part?
Okay. I feel like this is an easy answer for me now, but my older sister, Sierra, obviously came to Durham and played with us on our rugby team this past season after playing 4 years at Brock, going to school there, doing her education there and all that. So I think... yeah, just getting the opportunity to play with my sister. Durham has been so amazing for me, and I absolutely love it here. And every single year that I've spent here has been nothing short of amazing. I think the team, the rugby, obviously our team was very successful as well. But all of that aside, we still had so much fun along the way. And I think we worked so hard, obviously, because you don't win 3 championships in a row from not working hard. So we worked our behinds off every single practice, every single game, and that showed. But we also had so much fun with each other, and so to be able to have my big sister, she's right there.
Didn't want to come in today.
Yeah, didn't want to make an appearance. So to have my big sister, who even got me playing the sport of rugby, I wouldn't have played rugby if it wasn't for her. And she's who I look up to. Oh, she's staring at me now. Oh, that's so sweet. So yeah, just she's who I look up to in life in general. So just being able to play my final season with her was absolutely amazing. Because obviously we've played rugby together before with Vikings and stuff, but being able to wear the Lord's jersey with her was an incredible feeling. And yeah, to get that 3rd championship with her and to have her have all those successes too it was great.
That's so sweet. I love that. And Chloe?
Mine's not gonna top that. I'm gonna remember the community here for sure. Obviously my time here isn't done. I have another 3 years. I can play 2. I think my 5th year I'm gonna manage or just still be a part of it. But I remember last year when we won bronze, obviously it wasn't gold or anything.
Still good.
So
it was a crazy feeling. That final game that we played in the championship, it went into overtime and shootout.
We were women's rugby. We were watching it live.
Yeah, it was honestly the craziest roller coaster of emotions, and I will never forget that day, start to finish. It was crazy. Ending in shootout was obviously not what we wanted, but it was up and down the entire day. So I'll never forget that for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, well, thank you for being here today, Maya and Chloe. It was so awesome being able to chat with you. This has been the Lord's Last Play, talking about women in sport. This week, women's basketball is on the road at Georgian on Tuesday and George Brown on Friday. Tip-off is at 6 p.m., as well as women's volleyball finishing out their season at home. That's wrong. That was wrong. My apologies.
They did just finish their season at home.
They did just finish their season. I apologize. I got way ahead of myself. But
they are playing this Saturday.
Who are they playing on Saturday?
They are playing...
Thank you, Chloe, for helping me, because this is so awkward.
They're playing Redeemer at home.
Okay.
And the men's team is also playing a team.
The men's team is also playing. You know what? That's just as important.
The men's team is playing Niagara here, I think.
Okay, so the men Saturday. And women's volleyball team are also playing at home this week. I'm so sorry, volleyball. I got that wrong. I got ahead of myself when I was creating my script. Please don't forget that you can follow the Media Hub on social media at DCSA Media Hub. And we will also link the socials for the women's soccer team and the women's rugby team below. You can always catch me on social media on the Lords or the women's rugby page. Catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in.